This edition of Video Insights is sponsored by Avista Solutions, Cogent Road, and Compliance Systems, Inc. I'm Tony Garritano, founder of Progress and Lending Association, and thank you for joining me for another edition of Video Insights, where we find new and creative ways to give you a voice. As always, we start off with our Straight Talk. The first edition of Straight Talk saw Roger Gudobba and Greg Smith talk about how the market got into the condition it's in today. The second edition talked about where the market is today and where we are in terms of overall market conditions. Now we're going to talk about where we go from here and how technology can help you as a lender get out of the market doldrums.
Well, Roger, I think, how can technology help us get out of this mess? My opinion is it can't do it alone. Technology in and of itself is not a solution for our industry problems. They're varied and deep. But I do believe technology can play a material role in helping us on the path towards the recovery. What do you think?
Well, I agree. You have to look at technology as just another tool, not the solution. And so if you have a process that's flawed or something that's broke, technology won't fix it or improve it. It'll just automate it. And so that's really where you have to take a step back and say, what are we really trying to accomplish here? And when you look at some of the examples, you look at loan origination systems, what did they do for the industry? Kind of automated that process of collecting the information. But the process was there, we still had it defined. Automated underwriting systems basically analyzed that information and determined whether it was a good loan or not. The problem was we've kind of relaxed our standards there and relaxed the rules for loan approval, and so consequently we approved a lot of loans over the last few years that would never have been approved 5 years ago. And that's really what got us into some of this problem.
So I think what you're saying is we can build the best systems, but if we choose to not use them, we're still going to end up in a problem, and that's where we found ourselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. And part of technology is you still have a human element. You cannot, in underwriting for example, you cannot remove that human process because they're the ones that have the common sense and reasonability to look at something and say, this doesn't make sense, this is a red flag. No matter how many rules you build, you cannot capture some of that information.
Great point.
This edition of Video Insights is also sponsored by Depth Public Relations, eSign Systems, and Global DMS. As always, we want to hear what you have to say. In the Speaking Your Mind section, we capture your thoughts and your insights about what you see in terms of market conditions today. We caught up with John Dempsey at Data-Vision to talk a little bit about what the borrower expects from an online lending transaction. Here's what he had to share.
Trends that we're seeing today show that tech-savvy borrowers are tired of static websites, fill out a form and wait for a call back. They're much too eager these days to get immediate gratification and get an instant response. We're also seeing that an effective website is going to produce customized product recommendations, provide to the borrower competitive rates, and detail out the closing costs. They're interested in security, the ease of the application, providing instant decisioning, delivering the disclosures, and these are the types of things that one needs to stop the borrower from continuing shopping and make the purchase at your website.
Lastly, this edition of Video Insights was sponsored by NexLevel Advisors and The Turning Point. What happens if we don't catch up with you at a conference? What happens if we don't catch up with you at an industry event? We still want to give you a voice in our video insights. So email us your question or fax it any way you want. Get us your question, and Michael Hammond, our Chief Strategy Officer and the founder of NexLevel Advisors, will answer your questions in Asked and Answered.
This week's question: is telemarketing an effective way to generate leads? When done correctly, telemarketing can be a great way to generate leads. First and foremost, it's a very proactive way to reach out to your prospects and actively tell your story, your value propositions. Secondly, with telemarketing, instead of a passive way of marketing and hoping that someone responds, telemarketing, you can also gather great business intelligence, competitive information. What system or solution are they using? Are you speaking to the right executive? Who's the decision maker? What's their email address? By gathering that information, it can enhance all of your marketing programs. So when done correctly, telemarketing can be a great tool for lead generation.
Lastly, in the By the Numbers section, I wanted to share with you some information from Fiserv's Case-Shiller that I learned recently. The numbers are split, but in the long run, they're still bad. Home appreciation actually went up 3.6% in the second quarter of this year as compared to 1 year prior. Good news, but a little bit misleading. In 70% of the metropolitan areas during that time period, their home prices actually went down. In addition, over the next 12 months, Fiserv's Case-Shiller predicts home depreciation will happen by 7.1%. So home prices are not out of the woods yet. But that doesn't mean that you can't get a competitive edge. Use technology to the fullest, incorporate it with the sound business strategy, and you can beat current market conditions and continue to be a leader. And with that, this edition of Video Insights comes to a close. Until next time, so long.